to the Ringside Renaissance Wrestling Podcast.
Welcome back to Ringside Renaissance. I'm Kevin alongside Andy and Jesse, and we got a week's worth of shit to talk about. Let's do it.
Yeah.
How you guys doing today?
I'm good. How you doing, Jesse?
Good, man. Ready to talk about some wrestling.
Some wrestling.
Yeah.
Some wrestling.
Episode 6.
So, not a big week in pro wrestling, but decent week, you know. We have shit to talk about all across the board. WWE, AEW. Some good, some great, some bad, some ugly. And we're just going to get right into it. Triple threat matches. Let's talk about those triple threats on SmackDown real quick.
Yeah, a lot going on SmackDown. Starting with the triple threat matches to see who's going to face Cody.
At Backlash. It was LA Knight getting the win over
Rey Mysterio.
No, that was it?
Oh.
No, that was AJ. That one was Styles, Kevin Owens, and Rey Mysterio. That one was amazing.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about that one right now, because that was a really good match. And the finish, the Styles clash off the top rope on the KO.
As a splash.
But for AJ to pull that one off.
I'm not a big fan of triple threats in general. Like I've said before, they all get kind of jumbled up and stuff. And it's like now WWE, I think they're watching because like they have just hit us with triple threat matches the last week. Like
I know.
It's like, man, oh man, they had like a triple threat tag team match on Raw, and it was like
that was the worst thing I've ever watched. That match was awful.
Yeah, a lot of times I don't understand the concept of like a triple threat tag team match because there's really no rules in a triple threat match, right?
But
because
yet you still got to make a tag.
Right.
I feel like if you're gonna have a triple threat tag team match, then it should just be like the old school tornadoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And everybody is whoever gets the first pin gets the win. You know?
Or they used to have 4 corners tags where like there was 2 guys in the ring and you could tag anybody on the outside.
I don't even like that.
Yeah, at least it made a little more sense as far as well, you can only tag your own partner. So the triple threat matches, we had LA Knight win one, and we had AJ Styles win the other one, which means that AJ and LA Knight are going to fight for the number 1 contender spot. When you looked at the card and you looked at the matches, you kind of knew that's how it was going to go,
right?
Because of LA Knight and AJ Styles feud. I think AJ is going to get the win on this one. It doesn't make sense right now to have LA Knight go against Cody for the title. I think that's kind of, you don't want people to be booing Cody, so you want a heel to fight him so people will be cheering Cody and not booing him, and there'll probably be more LA Knight fans than Cody fans if they ended up facing each other.
I hate to break it to the Cody fans, but they're slowly turning on him, and it's only been a week.
Yeah, and LA Knights fans have always been loud and pretty much erupted once that and his music hits, so it's a pretty big thing when he comes out, and his triple threat match was against Bobby Lashley and Santos Escobar.
That's right,
I believe. Yeah,
that's why it wasn't that memorable.
Yeah, and that was a pretty, somewhat decent match. Bobby Lashley was thrown out of the ring, and then LA Knight hit Santos Escobar with his finisher,
the BFT.
The BFT, yes, picked up the win.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other match, like you said, it was Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, and Rey Mysterio. And that was a good match. I thought it was solid.
All three of those men know how to work a ring very well.
Yeah, sidebar, Kevin Owens is just really good right now with everything he's doing. And I think they should cash in right now on the chemistry that Kevin Owens and Randy Orton had together. And
agreed.
I think they should be the ones to win the tag titles from A-Town down under. I think that would be a really big boost as far as fans getting behind it and stuff. But I just I think they're kind of getting away from that after WrestleMania. So
I don't think they should, man. They have, like you said, they have great chemistry together. They're funny when they're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
And like KO's entrance for that triple threat match was awesome.
Yeah, and like the little like sort of promo he cut before he came out, he was kind of being the heel or the bad guy for that, like for that match a little bit. It seemed like he was building up with the things that he said. He knocked over the table and the CM Punk shirts, and so is that a little shot for the Bucks? I don't know.
I don't know. It was just because he grabbed the Detroit Tigers championship belt and goes, "I'm taking this," and looks back at the Punk shirts and just shoos them off the table, and then he continues on.
Yeah, he's made a couple backstage, and I think their work remarks about CM Punk and not caring about CM Punk and stuff. I think they're just sort of just letting that stew a little bit for maybe a future feud, just kind of building things up. I say shout out to the merchandise table that they had set up in back that nobody goes back there. It's like wrestlers only, but they got t-shirts for sale just so Kevin Owens can knock them over.
Yeah, like who's buying those t-shirts? Is that for the wrestlers?
That was the most haggard half-ass merchandise I've seen. I've seen local underground music shows with better merch table setups than just a folding table with 3 shirts and a belt on it.
I hope they get a discount back there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he knocked him over. It was too pricey.
Yeah. It's wardrobe. It's wardrobe. CM Punk's got to pick his shirt before he comes out,
Clearly did not approve of that shirt. Next week, we got a couple weird teases this week. I know Jesse's a little about these teases, but we're going to get right into it. Is it Uncle Howdy or is it Matt Hardy? Is it both? What's going on?
Oh, I hope it's not Matt Hardy because, as much as I love the Hardy Boys, I don't want to see them damage their image anymore and come back and, wrestle and not be at their peak performance and what they can do. So I hope it's Uncle Howdy or something along those lines.
I was a little thrown off when Jesse informed us that Matt Hardy shared that weird circle logo with the lion and then the raven or vulture, whatever it was, on his Twitter page. Which, why would you do that? I mean, you're a free agent. I mean, if you sign with WWE, cool, but come back as regular Matt Hardy with no connection to the fucking Uncle Howdy, Wyatt Six, whatever they're planning.
Yeah, I think there definitely is something to do with Uncle Howdy because he put stuff on his Twitter coinciding with the little glitches and whatever on the shows, but I don't know if Matt Hardy's just in support of it or if they're going to bring him back as part of the faction because of his tie with Bray Wyatt in the past. But
that's the other thing I heard, that everybody involved in this faction is somebody from Bray's past.
Well,
hinting
that's
at
interesting.
Strowman. Rowan recently pulled out of all his indie appearances due to new contractual obligations. What else could that mean, guys? I mean, come on.
And that just seems to be kind of like the Bray Wyatt, Uncle Howdy type of MO thing, is to post these supernatural hacking messages on a computer screen or however they're going to do it.
I don't remember anybody complaining when Bray did it a couple years ago, so if people are going to complain now, they're just looking for shit to complain about.
I don't think I was complaining when it happened.
Not you, I'm just...
But once we got to the Mountain Dew Pitch Black match and the gimmick of it, I think at that point I may have been you
I don't
did
think
all
anybody
this.
Was sure what Bray was trying to be. Was it like a vampire?
Right.
He had fangs. What was it?
And all respect to Bray Wyatt and everything, but
100%.
When he came back, but I feel like they were almost trying to redo when Punk had came back to AEW or try to kind of match that type of energy because you hadn't seen a lot of comeback things in WWE in a long time where they kind of had somebody come out and try to get that type of reception. So
exactly.
Take it as you want.
And change and as far as if you're gonna go with the supernatural type angle and stuff, scan your phone here, and we'll take you to a video. It's okay, come on. I could see something hanging in the back.
I'm waiting to see those backstage entrances they've been doing with those new camera angles. I'm just waiting to see Uncle Howdy behind someone.
Right. Something like that. See, would be more understandable, but it's break the code. I feel like we're trying to figure out Y2J's coming back again in 2009,
Oh, Lord.
I don't know really what they're going to try to do with after the Bray Wyatt documentary. I've told you guys, Uncle Howdy, Bo Dallas, whatever, Taylor Rotunda, he's going to come back as a babyface. He isn't coming back as a heel after how he was portrayed in that.
Look how The Fiend premiered. The Fiend premiered as this demonic force that was just wreaking havoc, but people still loved him.
Yeah.
He was meant to be a heel, but was perceived as a face.
Yeah, and he first went against Finn Balor, which was not a heel at that point. So it was kind of in a weird position. Yeah, people were clearly rooting for the Fiend.
Seth Rollins squashed him with the freaking Gallagher mallet, and that was pretty That's pretty believable.
Listen, I don't know how you could get disqualified in a Hell in a Cell match. So,
I mean,
but one more thing about that: Alexa Bliss has been training, and she is ready to come back whenever. And now that Women's World Championship is vacated, what a better time to bring her back. Personally, if you got to put the belt on anybody, you really think they're going to put it on Liv Morgan?
Yep.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's what
I'm good with it. I just feel like a good feud for her to get that belt would be with Bliss. Because who else does Raw really have right now, women-wise, that could be a good champion in Mommy's absence?
Yeah, and that ties into another story of Rhea Ripley having to vacate her title due to an injury. We don't know where the injury took place or when it took place. I read online, and take everything online with a grain of salt, that she'd only be out for 3 to 4 months. So if that's the case, you can't get into some long-standing feud or storyline with the women's title. So I think they're just going to have a tournament, put it on Liv Morgan, have her do this whole angle about how she, put Rhea Ripley on the shelf just for Rhea to come back and take it back from her. I think that's kind of...
And I hope Rhea comes back looking more badass than ever.
And I see online people saying like, well, they didn't make Seth Rollins vacate the title and when he got hurt and everything else, but we don't know the complexity of it. Like, we don't know. The doctor told Seth Rollins, 2 months, you'll be better. And then they could have told him that. And then they could have told Rhea 3 to 4 months, but it could take up to 6 to 9. We don't know the complexity of it. So people are taking a lot of shots.
What in her shoulder is hurt. It's the opposite arm that she was wearing that wrist brace on.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe, okay, this might be serious.
And they were trying to say that it came, like you said, from the chair shot from Liv.
I think they're just using that to fuel the future
they showed
story.
like the picture of the chair hitting her, and they were trying to say that's when she got hurt and
she did
that
get
injury
beamed with that chair.
Fucking all time. All time, man. I've never seen anything like that. Like a setup backstage, like, you know what I mean? The backstage is really the controlled environments where like they could kind of, hey, go over like how it's gonna go, and she just whiffed her with that fucking thing. Like,
I'm just gonna wait in the shadows and I'm just gonna throw this chair. Yeah.
Like, there was such force behind that chair throw. I didn't think Liv Morgan was behind it.
Yeah.
Hey, well, Liv Morgan's on her revenge tour, and she's coming back looking good, ready to go for it. I'm
you
here
think she
for
looked good?
Yeah, of course. I'm here for the heel Liv Morgan,
I love heel Liv Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, when's the last time we saw that? Maybe little glimpses here and there, but going back to, like, the Riot Squad, maybe.
Which leads in, while we're still talking about Raw, let's talk about the new World Tag Titles. What do we think of them? Are they an upgrade or downgrade? How do they look, guys?
I personally like them.
Yeah,
I think
like
they
them.
look cool. They're kind of like a shout out to the championship title on Raw. It looks similar, maybe a little too similar, people would say, but I like them a lot better than the old titles. So
I like that they brought back the original name for the tag championships, not Raw, not Smack. This week on SmackDown, I'm willing to bet we get a revamp for those titles as well.
Yeah. Those will probably be called like the Universal Tag Titles, because they look like they've been having like the World Championship, the Universal Championship, the Women's Championship. They look a lot more prestigious now. The other ones look
100%.
like Walmart specials. You know what I mean? Like anything.
The other ones look like dinner plates.
Yeah, these ones look like pizzas, but like they
do look like pizzas.
But they look more prestigious. Like the gold's more, the detail in it is more defined, and I think it makes the titles. And at the end of the day, we can say the World Heavyweight title, the Women's World Heavyweight title, but these are the Tag Team World Heavyweight titles. So like they should be put on a pedestal and just as prestigious,
Right.
I like them a lot more than the Intercontinental title looks right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see that go back to the white strap look, but now they're getting to the point where they just want every title to have the interchangeable side plates.
Yeah.
As opposed to a nameplate. The tag titles were the last ones that didn't have the side plates.
But staying in the same vein as tag titles or tag team, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair tagged up, and essentially another squash match. I think this is the smartest move they can do with Jade right now. Just have her in a tag team. Like, Bianca's already established. She's had her title runs. Like, put the tag titles on them and let her build and learn behind Bianca, who is established, before you push her in a singles run. Like, let them have a long tag title reign, and then
maybe have them turn on each other.
Yeah, have Jade turn on Bianca Bianca like some screwy finish to drop the titles, and that'll start her first big solo like single campaign. I think that's a smart move for them because she's still very green in the ring. Obviously, she's got a lot of potential.
I've seen a lot of comments online talking shit about how all she's getting are squash matches, but yet they're doing the same thing with Braun Breaker on SmackDown, and no one's complaining about that. Like, listen, this is what you do when you get a powerhouse on your show at first. You give them a few squash matches, make them look big, and then you feed them to the real talent.
How many people are going to use the spear for their finisher, too?
Oh, my God, I know. I mean, granted, his is brutal. He's got a good spear.
Yeah. I give it to him there.
Very Goldberg-esque, his spear.
So I went back and watched some old videos, and I think that WWE is really missing an opportunity here to revamp the Jade versus Brandi feud from AEW.
Ooh.
Because if you go back and look at some of the promos, and the first time Jade got introduced in AEW and Brandi came out and was like, "Who told you this was your show, bitch? You've got to stay away from my man." But if you have not seen that, you need to.
Is that what Cody was talking about in his promo?
Yes,
it's not open mic night, bitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, go back as soon as you're done. Listen, watch the debut of Jade on AEW was probably the greatest thing AEW has ever done. It was
good.
I definitely will.
One of their first matches was Shaq came in.
Yeah.
And it was Shaq and Jade, I believe. And it was Brandi and Cody?
No, because Brandi ended up pregnant. So they had
okay.
to sub Red Velvet in, which made no sense whatsoever. It was just a disaster from the beginning. Yeah. But just that first night Jade came out and like she just like walks to the ring and Cody just looks at her and is like, "Can I help you?" And like she just starts like posing and like you gotta watch it. They should really get back into this Brandi Jade thing. I would really enjoy it. I thought we were gonna
get some type of like Brandi Rock confrontation because she came out at the end of WrestleMania, of course. But yeah, he didn't want to. He'd rather mention Mama Rhodes than
Well, while we're on the subject of AEW, I did happen to watch some Collision this past weekend, and I gotta talk about this one match only because they were chopping each other in the middle of the ring, and the one dude, do you know what I'm talking about? His chops were like barely, there was no force behind it. His hand was just like landing on the chest. There was almost no echo of the slap. I'm talking Katsuyori Shibata versus Lee
Moriarty.
Yeah.
Awful. That match was awful. I'm watching them in the center of the ring, no selling. And that's another thing about this week of Collision, or just Collision in general.
Mm-hmm.
No selling entire matches pisses me off.
Dude, you're not down with it? That's strong style.
That's strong style, bro.
I don't give a shit. If it's strong style, some of that shit is strong enough to hurt you.
You just don't get pro wrestling, bro. You just don't get it.
Let the AEW diehards come at me now for this.
Go watch your PG Fed and fucking.
Yeah, I will. At least when Gunther hits someone with the chop, you could hear that shit from outside the arena.
Yeah. I mean, WWE does some no selling too, but like whole matches
not
of
as
it
much
is
as
just
AEW. I like the hook match. There was no sells throughout that whole match. The BCC match versus the Don Callis family.
Mm-hmm.
No selling, and then Bryan Danielson gets dropped on his head on the ramp and seemed to be legitimately hurt.
Yeah, we get botches in every company. It's just depending more on if the moves are making sense going into what they're doing.
This is my problem. The match I was talking about with Lee Moriarty, they were chopping each other in the middle of the ring and kicking each other in the chest in the middle of the ring, and no one was moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't move with those half-ass chops either, but like I wouldn't sell something so shitty either. It's just a continuation of this is the style AEW is going for with a majority of their matches. Like, cool, but like let that be what it is. Don't keep trying to do something like that and then put down WWE for their product, because like people are there's just gonna be backlash. Like, just stay in your lane, man. Like, that's like the biggest thing. Even with WWE takes shots, but it's never normally on WWE programming. CM Punk's made a few comments in his promos in the past, but they're not direct and in the vein. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
he's not even taking shots to be a dick.
And that's what he does
shots
too.
Just trying to be fun.
Yeah,
that's what he does wherever he goes. You know, So
he did it in the UFC in his promos.
And that's how, like, you could, like, going back, I know we're talking about current events, but going back to one of the first CM Punk promos he did when he came back to WWE, he was talking about something, and he was like, do I look like the type of guy that would punch people backstage? And, like, nobody...
It's 2024, guys. You just can't be doing stuff like that. I love that line.
And like, but like, if you listen to the crowd, nobody in the crowd got it. People that try to encompass all wrestling, they understood what he was saying. But the people in WWE crowd, like, AEW is not even on their radar. No. Like, it's not even like, it didn't even register. Like, you didn't even hear like a smattering of laughs in the crowd. It would just fell dead. Like, we understood it, we got it, but like, it just showed.
There might have been that few people in the crowd in the mix and we're like, I get that. But WWE's crowds are mostly WWE diehards and the WWE faithful. And sprinkled in are the guys that happen to watch both product and understand these inside jokes and inside digs, you know?
The diehard fans of wrestling probably understand and see what it is. If you speak to people that have watched like wrestling in the past and they'll tune in like once in a while, a lot of them probably haven't really watched AEW much, and they'll tune in to WWE once in a while, or they'll just watch like the pay-per-views to catch up and see what's happening, or they'll go back in the past for like the nostalgia matches, and that's what they remember. And with AEW, and you talk about like the Forbidden Door, and people were so happy about that, to mix it up with like these strong style wrestlers with like AEW's like regular wrestlers, it doesn't mesh a lot of times too. And it doesn't really come across right to the people that even are watching that, I feel like, unless they're catering to that very small audience.
And the whole concept of Forbidden Door was awesome at the beginning. Like, it was a really cool concept, but now you look at it, like, there's so many former WWE talent that's in AEW, and that is what it is. Like, you know, just people wanted to sign over there that wrestle a WWE style match, and they don't wrestle the strong style match. And on top of that, since then, Tony Khan has basically plucked all of like the top talent from New Japan and signed them in AEW. So New Japan doesn't really have anybody anymore. So like the Forbidden Door lost its mystique and they bring in wrestlers from other companies on just a regular random episode of Dynamite. So this whole concept of a Forbidden Door pay-per-view, well, you're portraying the Forbidden Door every week on Dynamite. So what makes a Forbidden Door pay-per-view like mean that much more? It doesn't mean anything more, because one week you have CMLL guys on the show, one week you have AAA guys on, one week you have New Japan guys on. So like the pay-per-view is like, who cares? We see this every single week on TV for free. Like, if you're going to build something like that and make it mean something, and just flooding it right now, you're flooding the whole concept, and it loses like the mystique or like the value of it. You know, why do I want to buy a Forbidden Door pay-per-view when I can watch these same guys wrestle every week on Dynamite?
Exactly.
And before the Forbidden Door kind of came about with AEW and they started really mixing all these wrestlers, AEW had Dark, and they did stuff like that, and they were bringing in independent wrestlers from all these other independent promotions, you know, smaller promotions from across the United States mostly, and they were kind of coming in. A lot of them were like squash matches, but at least they were giving them opportunities and letting them get themselves out there. And now you really don't see it as much because you're only getting New Japan, Ring of Honor.
You have talent in AEW. You have Miro. Like, when's the last time we've seen fucking Miro?
I was about to say that.
Lance Archer comes in for one match every 2.5 months and then just goes away. But we gotta highlight Gravity from fucking AAA. He's the AAA Hasabata Borobano fucking champion, and you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
what about Switchblade? Where's Switchblade been since they had ended the MJF feud?
Oh, he's the Ring of Honor Trio champion. What are you talking about? The most prestigious title on TV.
Man, the most prestigious title, honestly, I think goes to John Moxley right now.
I think Miro's actually looking around, and he's spending his time looking for Damian Priest.
I think he's also looking for a new wife.
Not touching that one.
Yeah.
Not
Struck a
touching
chord.
Miro and Damian Priest could both kick the shit out of me. I'm not starting on that
Wait.
one.
They were together at a bunch of events and stuff like that. I don't know if
I
it's like
didn't know
if it's
that.
official, but yeah,
I could see
they've
Priest
been seen.
more
Good for
interested in
him.
Miro than Lana the way he looks, but
Seeing that hashtag after he won the
It's
world
the
title.
bondage Undertaker.
Yeah.
The bondage Undertaker.
the trisexual Undertaker, he'll try
Yeah.
anything.
Oh man,
my god!
we gotta get. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
we're jumping all over the. We're jumping
Yeah.
all over the place,
I
people.
got one thing left to say about WWE, and it's a sad little update from Big E.
Yeah.
He doesn't see him being cleared to wrestle again, ever. He's got almost the same neck injury that Edge had, and all from that move on the outside by Ridge Holland.
He had the same injury you said that Edge had, and I wonder if it's kind of similar to the one that Paige had. So I'm gonna remain, optimistic for him and thinking maybe someday he might be able to come back.
But I feel like now at this point you could split apart the New Day.
Yeah, it sucks for the New Day.
They're kind of holding out hope, but I think they know more than we know. I think it just got made public that Big E isn't going to come back, and you got to feel for Ridge Holland too, because that must be very mentally a lot heavyweight to know that like there was a guy that was as profound in wrestling that you're just doing a move and it ends up potentially ending their
Not
career.
even a crazy move. It was a basic move on the outside of the ring that he just landed wrong.
To get back on that, Big E is a funny dude, and the New Day is definitely going to miss him, and hopefully he does come back and does get to do like these pre-show, commentary things, and we do still see him on WWE networks and TVs.
He should still be involved to some extent.
But talk about people that can reinvent themselves. They didn't have nothing for Kofi or Xavier or Big E, and they bet on themselves and sold the idea of the New Day, which was the most obnoxious faction they got over as far as like the fans not liking them, and turned into the fans really liking them and making something out of nothing, and they really made it work. And shout out to all of them. We saw Kofi get the heavyweight championship out of that. We saw Big E winning it. Xavier got got a nice title himself backstage. He never got nothing on screen, but the
up, down, down.
Yeah,
that's shout out Paige.
Yeah, up, down, down. Yeah, I mean, New Day, second longest reigning tag team champions of all time.
Behind the Usos, correct?
Yeah, Usos broke that record, a year ago. Or
while we're talking Usos, we gotta talk about the recent debut on SmackDown real quick.
Yeah,
Tama Tonga joining the seemingly new tribal chief Solo Sikoa, and they brutally executed Jimmy Uso.
Yeah. Does this mean Jimmy's out of the bloodline now?
I think so. I think it means Jimmy's out. I don't think these orders came from Roman.
I agree.
I think these orders might have came from the final boss, or it's just Solo Sikoa taking the bloodline into his own hands. I think we're going to see another debut. Jacob Fatu has reportedly signed a contract with WWE.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if so, that builds up Solo's new bloodline to take on Roman and the Usos when Roman comes back. That's the great thing about this whole bloodline story. It wasn't told over the course of a couple weeks or a couple months. It was told over 3.5, 4 years.
Yeah, it's very confusing to me where they're going with it. I'm intrigued by it, and I'm going to keep watching and watch it play out. But Jimmy, Solo, and Paul Heyman coming out to the ring, and Paul Heyman saying that we acknowledge the defeat, and we're going to learn from this, we're going to grow, we're going to come back stronger. And then it's Solo Sikoa who says losing is not acceptable, and he's like 0-34.
I know. Who's going to punish you, big guy?
Yeah, that whole thing kind of confused me, him being the one to say something like that. Like, he hasn't, I don't think he's won since he beat John Cena like 3 years ago. So it's very confusing to me. Like I said, I'm waiting to see it all play out. I honestly think that it's going to be, like you said, Solo, Tama Tonga, who's not in the bloodline, which, like I've said before, I don't think Rock's really in the bloodline either. But and
I think Rock's got a more credible claim to the bloodline than Tonga.
Blood oath. we took blood oath. They kind of teased it a little bit going, you know, they cross shows when Sami was talking to Jay and asked him if he was okay with what happened to Jimmy, and Jay kind of stayed quiet about it and stuff. I think they're planting the seeds there to kind of have a Uso reunion.
Which leads into the draft. I think Jay is going to get drafted back to SmackDown.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it makes sense. And, you know, we'll see how that plays out and stuff. But the way that, okay, if you look at the Cody promo when he came to the ring the night after WrestleMania on Raw, and he said that he can't take away from what Roman Reigns did. And he said, I acknowledge you, Roman Reigns. And everybody put the finger up and acknowledged him. I think that's what they needed. They're selling Roman coming back as a babyface. And I think that's really what planted the seeds there is, you know, the babyface world champion acknowledging the heel that he just overcame, which is really not comical, but like, think about it. From WrestleMania weekend, the only person that went into WrestleMania weekend as a champion, minus the women's tag team champions, they never defended them. And is that really a prestigious title at this point? But like every meaningful title that went into WrestleMania weekend, Logan Paul is the only one that still has his title. You know what I mean?
I know, but you're right. Logan Paul is the only champion who went in to WrestleMania champion and came out of WrestleMania champion, which I think is a testament to their faith in Logan Paul's athleticism and capability inside of a ring.
Going back to SmackDown with Tama Tonga, yeah, going back to that, and he's the son of Haku,
yep,
I believe, yes.
Right.
So I had seen some places that he trained under like Bully Ray, and he's gonna kind of come back, and he's got this kind of psychopathic character.
Well, so does Solo. So them together.
Well, Solo is more stoic, from what I see, and Tonga's more just on site about it. Mm-hmm. So it should be interesting to see what dynamic he's going to bring to that bloodline and where they're going to take it with him. And then if we're going to get these new people, other people showing up to, you know, team with them.
But let's swerve into AEW Dynamite, the last Dynamite before Dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
You got Claudio versus Ospreay. Should be a good match.
Oh.
That should be a solid. That's probably the one match I'm really excited for in this.
Yeah, great build. Great build to that one.
Yeah.
There's no building at all. They don't have storytelling.
Thank you. This is the problem. Claudio versus Ospreay, if they built that for 3 weeks, the payoff of the match would be fucking phenomenal. But it's just going to be a throwaway, it's a dream match because Tony Khan jerked off to the thought of them wrestling each other one night. And like now he's got them in the same fucking company. They're gonna wrestle and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, right. The only story they really have is that Claudio is in the faction, the BCC, with Bryan Danielson, and he's facing Will Ospreay at Dynasty.
I guess that makes sense.
But there was no build to it. It was, just announced.
There's no build up for any of this card. All right, like the next. I mean, okay, there's a little build up for that Adam Copeland and Willow Nightingale versus Julia Hart and Brody King. Again,
5-star.
Kind of.
Shout out Dave Meltzer.
Oh my God. We don't listen. Dave Meltzer is a mark. My feeling bad for Adam Copeland continues because that man's just.
Yeah.
I fucking hate Dave Meltzer.
The thing. Okay, so at the end of the day, like, so when Edge did his rah-rah speech about like, Okada, me, Ospreay, Mercedes, like, we all came here for one reason. Yeah, the fucking money. You went there for the fucking money. So just pull this curtain back about and talk about how people are like, oh, we're the best wrestle, we're whatever. These guys are going there for a fucking paycheck. Like at the end of the day, okay, I know you have like love and passion for wrestling and everything else, but at the end of the day, am I going to wrestle here once a week and make twice as much money, if not 3 times more money than going to WWE and having to wrestle a few times a week and having to do all these public appearances and going back to like what we said, like with like Miro is getting paid to sit home right now. Like, if you would pay me the money that they're making to sit home and fuck off, like, of course I would take that. So this whole like delusion that people put up about like, the AEW, the people go there because they want the best for pro wrestling. No, they want the best for their fucking bank account. Like,
Yeah.
Colt Cabana went there and he doesn't have to share a bank account with his mom anymore. Like this is like what fucking this is what Tony Khan does, bro. Like he just pays people absurd amount of money to do like next to nothing shit, and when he doesn't want anything to do with you, he just doesn't call you. You sit home and you just keep collecting his money. Like
right.
Shout out to Mindy's Bakery, by the way. Yeah.
And next on the card we have the Elite versus Pac, Penta El Zero, and Daniel Garcia.
Yeah, who's gonna win that one?
Fucking who cares?
We're gonna see a devastating Rainmaker to finish that match.
Super kick party.
Yeah.
We're also gonna be hearing from Samoa Joe and Swerve.
That's good though.
Yeah,
you got to mix it up a little bit. You know, the attacks that Swerve did on Joe, you got to hear the animosity build. Like, I feel like that feud has got a decent build to it going.
It does.
Yeah, Joe kicks a good promo too,
Mm-hmm.
and Swerve can go right off that and hang in there too. And we've gotten the back and forth with them hitting each other with the chain on their fist and busting each other open. So
I think it's going to be a bloody match at Dynasty.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah.
Which, that's the one thing AEW does have going for them, is they're not afraid to push the envelope as far as bleeding in matches.
John Moxley will bleed from a headlock, so...
Yeah, and shout out to John Moxley,
I was about to bring him champion. Up. He's returning as the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion tonight, so...
I think it's just to push the narrative for Forbidden Door coming up.
Yeah, I believe so.
So now you're going to have John Moxley defend the IWGP title on Forbidden Door against another AEW guy. But that's a Forbidden Door.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That shit fucking frustrates me, man.
I'm with you.
Okay, so like you just had a New Japan fucking pay-per-view with like 5 guys from AEW on that pay. Why wouldn't that be considered the Forbidden Door paper? The fucking shit is stupid, bro.
I know.
And it was in Chicago.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go off top.
Chicago.
Yeah, not even in Japan anymore.
Yeah. Is it just going to become like Ring of Honor now too?
I think so.
Are they just all affiliated and tied in together? I mean, which is fine. Like if they got good wrestling, they have good wrestling. But too much crossover and blurring between each. I don't know which is which at some point, you know?
Right. No, I agree.
Tony Schiavone actually had just put out some more comments recently too. These people comparing the aired footage to the finger poke of doom and comparing it to WCW, and he was out there defending it, saying he was at WCW when it happened, and that it's nothing alike, and people don't know what they're talking about, and he's just standing up for his company. You got to respect it.
Which at that point, when your company's back is put against the wall, someone's got to go out there and defend it.
Yeah,
he's got a mortgage. He can't lose his job. You know what I mean? Like, it's just is what it is. You can't just go out there and say something publicly against Tony Khan and AEW because then he'd lose his job, Right.
But he's got to wait till he gets a contract somewhere else.
But I agree with him. I agree with him because AEW is nowhere near on the level of where WCW was back in the late 90s.
And they're never going to be at the rate they're going.
Right. And like people even compare them to WCW, but they're almost try to be more like ECW, like people talk about, and that thing. And with Tony Khan, hate to jump off the subject real quick, but Tony Khan talks about being in fear for his life. And then he also speaks about going to ECW, growing up and being in front of all these crazy hardcore matches that were in the crowd and brutal stuff going on. And he never feared for his life then.
There.
Yeah,
the lawyers told him to say that to give cause to fire CM Punk. That's all it was.
Yeah, and maybe he was in Tony Schiavone's ear a little bit with putting these other comments out when he saw Tony Schiavone on camera after they aired that footage and had his head down in his hands. And
he's got to talk to Taz too, because Taz looked embarrassed by that shit just as much as Schiavone. The next match on Dynamite is Deonna Purrazzo versus Mariah May.
Skip.
Yeah.
And then we lead into the last little bit where Taz brokers a meeting between Jericho and Hook.
Skip.
Yeah.
And that's it for Dynamite, everybody.
I'm hoping, Jericho's kind of going to be a little disrespectful to Taz, maybe.
He should.
And try to bring up some past stuff. And
because they were in ECW
together.
Jericho's
got to go back to being Y2J Jericho, that cocky attitude.
Jericho needs to go back home and not be on TV because...
Like home? Like his actual home he lives in?
Yes.
Yes, agreed.
Yes, and just what, count your fucking money and stay home, pal. Like
stay on the Jericho cruise.
Yeah.
Go make another album with Fozzy, man. Come on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring up the Windy City riot real quick with all the stuff with Jack Perry leaning into the whole scapegoat character and coming out with the Chicago flag and Cry Me a River on the back of his jacket and stuff. He's really leaning into the character, good, bad, or indifferent. I can see what he's doing. He's trying to make a name for himself and stuff. I want to say this real quick. If the EVPs have as much power as they do in AEW, and they're close with Jack Perry, and they're calling, why would Jack Perry ever get suspended in the fucking first place?
Right.
That whole concept doesn't make sense. If the Bucks are the EVPs and they can do what they want, and they can suspend people and fine people and everything else, why is Jack Perry being suspended if he's their buddy and they're on his side the whole time? So you've lost all continuity with this fucking storyline you're trying to do with the releasing the footage and everything else, and Jack Perry being the scapegoat. Well, then why was he suspended? So you're trying to blur the lines between reality and storyline, and you're fucking it up by saying you have all this power, but you don't have this power, because if you had the power, then you wouldn't have had him suspended in the first place.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, as far as we saw Kenny Omega make comments recently about how he doesn't have much power as an EVP as he used to. So do you think that there's like some friction between the Young Bucks and Tony Khan even?
No, I think the friction is between Kenny and the Young Bucks.
I think
as far as Jack Perry not, being kind of exiled for a while.
No, I think Tony Khan just did that because he felt he had to he was going to fire Punk. He had to suspend Jack Perry.
Yeah.
I think he felt like he had to do that. And I think Young Bucks and Tony Khan are more in each other's back pockets than even it shows. But way to drive home the narrative, like I've said before, about CM Punk being the babyface in this feud by having Jack Perry come out with Cry Me a River on the back of his fucking jacket.
Right.
So now you're further pushing the narrative that he was egging CM Punk on to attack him. By putting the Cry Me a River on the back of your jacket and coming out, you are purposely putting out there that you were meaning to piss off CM Punk. He could have came out and been like, oh man, like I didn't mean it like that. It just came off the wrong way or whatever, But putting that on the jacket, now you're saying that you were clearly trying to fucking poke the bear with CM Punk by saying that into the fucking camera. And now you're justifying CM Punk's actions backstage by attacking you. Further making CM Punk the fucking babyface in this storyline.
And he doesn't even work there.
What the fuck are they doing?
Well, I appreciate him trying to get heat, and he did get a lot of heat for that, of course. And people are talking about it, so credit to that.
I didn't want to get off the subject we were talking about with the Kenny Omega thing either, but
it makes sense. Hopefully they're able to turn it into something with Jack Perry. It's obviously not going to be a match versus Punk, but
so there's no payoff, so why even do it? The reason to bring something like this up is to have the fucking match payoff that everybody wants to see, that you're going to make money and draw viewers and draw fans into the arena. There's no payoff to this because CM Punk's not fucking there. Why even do it?
Yeah, it's a popularity war at this point. And it was at Chicago. It was in Chicago, the event, and there were a lot of fuck CM Punk chants, but there was also a lot of CM Punk chants going on for that. And Jack Perry didn't even win the match.
I know.
He didn't?
No.
I didn't even watch.
He tried. He hit his opponent in the corner with the CM Punk's running knee into the turnbuckle. And then he did the GTS sign.
I saw that.
He picked him up for the GTS, and then he reversed it and beat Perry.
Oh, way to put Perry over. Good job.
I would have liked to see him win the match at least, if you're going to try to use all this, as ammunition and go into AEW with it and build him up.
And this is the thin line that Tony Khan is walking on with allowing talent to go cross. He doesn't have any creative control over New Japan. Right. So they could just book fucking Jack Perry to lose every match, and then you're going to try to bring him back in as like this big heel. Like, well, you just lost every fucking match in New Japan.
Yeah.
So touching on the Kenny Omega comments that I found very fascinating. And I've told you guys this since we've been talking, and I've mentioned it on the show. I think Kenny Omega has been just like an innocent bystander. Everything that happened with the brawl out, and his comments were and I felt like they were very sincere. I don't think that was Kenny Omega being a smart ass or a goofball or just trying to get heat or trying to whatever. He seemed very genuine and sincere. His number one goal was to try to get Larry out of the room because he didn't want the dog to get hurt, which there's been reports, even though there's NDAs, there was reports that even before that I've heard that Kenny Omega was trying to get the dog out of the room. Like, I heard that a year ago when this all kind of came out, and there's legal stuff in place and whatever, but he could have taken that moment and went into character and kind of tried to side with the Bucks and, you know, take it on, but he was being very real about it, very sincere about it. And I really think that wasn't on-screen Kenny Omega. That was real-life Kenny Omega just basically wiping his hands from the whole thing. And he even said that he would have went and talked to CM Punk at All In if there wasn't things in place keeping him from doing that, which means that, you know what, the Bucks and Tony Khan were probably like, yo, don't go, you know, fuck that, don't go talk to him.
I respect it. Yeah. It was cool. The last thing I really wanted to speak on was about Cody Rhodes and the championship, and I'm not sold on it yet. Like, no. He's got to do more to build me up on it.
He's cut the same promo the last 3 appearances. The Monday after Mania, that Friday, and then this past Monday. It's just been the same promo.
And, of course, it hasn't been much time yet, and he hasn't even had a title defense yet. But we spoke on it a little bit off camera about him holding the title and coming out with the title, and he just kind of looks like awkward with the title, in my opinion.
It looks like, I think you said, it looks too big for him.
Yeah, he hasn't quite figured it out, like how to carry it yet, and how he carries himself with the title yet.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, like, he's just got to find his stride, but I think they should really, and I'm not trying to compare old, like, 90s WWF to today and stuff, but, like, you would see when Stone Cold was the champion, when Shawn Michaels was the champion, when The Rock was the champion, they were still wrestling. They were still putting on matches. They were putting tag matches on Raw. They are in danger of turning the crowd against Cody if they just have him come out every event, put on this like 15-minute speech about how he's like this great champion, and he's going to hold this title with honor and prestige and everything else, and then just walks away.
Like, you guys realize he's continued to talk about The Rock 3 shows in a row.
Yeah, they're trying to keep that relevant. I mean,
stop. Let him focus and build up these other feuds that he's got going with AJ or LA, or even after that, Gunther, somebody.
And he didn't beat The Rock yet.
No.
He hasn't beaten The Rock.
Let that simmer and sit for a while until the inevitable future when The Rock does come back.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's clearly not going to be a fucking surprise. It's happening. We just obviously don't know when.
You broke my heart.
Here's your mom's panties.
Yeah, Mama Rhodes.
I'm doubling down on saying that it was something to do with him being the tribal chief, because that's introducing a new bloodline now. But
it's gotta be, yeah.
You're welcome. And I just want to give a shout out to Montreal and Sami Zayn for that entrance that he did on Monday Night Raw before the Intercontinental title match with Chad Gable, which is actually it was a good match too. But to see Sami Zayn come in and to see that crowd as hyped and as pumped up as he was walking through the crowd, like, those are moments that make me love pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And it was organic. It was natural. It wasn't forced. They weren't forcing it was a hometown thing, obviously, but they weren't forcing the crowd to love Sami Zayn in that moment. And they weren't forcing him to put on like this fake, I'm full of energy. It was just very organic, very well done. And to see him just naturally come out and just enjoy the moment and be in that moment was like it was just an entrance on Monday Night Raw, but to me was a special moment in pro wrestling that is one of the reasons why I love pro wrestling. To see that organic emotion, you know, coming from the crowd and from Sami Zayn, and I loved every minute of it. You know, the match was good, but the entrance, I could watch the entrance over and over again.
Right.
And the entrance was great too, because Jay Uso had won his match and he left through the crowd. Yeah. And of course he goes out through the crowd and goes out to the front door, and who's out at the front door? Sammy's looking up at the place that he said he started or came to over 25 years ago to watch shows that made him fall in love with pro wrestling. And he's just sitting there reminiscing, looking up. And then he makes his way in, and the crowd's going fucking crazy, fucking bananas.
So you gotta love those moments when the crowd, like Jesse said, when the crowd is just that organic and feeling the moment for their hometown boy.
He had to get some good returns in from when he faced Roman at the Elimination Chamber there, because it was wild too for that. But for him to come out to the crowd, he could have went straight to the ring too. He stayed out in the crowd and kept going back in and getting them riled up for that match. And they put on a good match, you know, a good old school kind of match. Gable went after his legs, you know, his ankle for the ankle lock. And
then we get the heel turn at the end, which I think we all saw coming 2.5 miles away.
Yeah. He pulls Sami away from his wife. But that was a great way to end Raw in Montreal. Great wrestling city. And when he was out, you know, on the street looking up at the Bell Center, he was like, I'm about to show everybody why this is the best wrestling city.
Yeah.
You know, so it was great.
Yeah. I did love it.
Yeah.
But all right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Ringside Renaissance. As always, I'm Kevin.
I'm Andrew.
And I'm Jesse.
We're the knights at the front lines of this Renaissance and Wrestling podcast.
Stay tuned for the next episode as we dive into some gimmicks. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the weird. We'll see you next time.
Peace.